Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever and whenever you're from. Welcome to Comic Club. You're watching episode 3 of issue 3 of volume 1 of Once and Future, The King is Undead, published by Boom Studios. Now, what happened last time in chapter 2 was that we saw the rise of King Arthur. It was a very short issue in terms of the time span it went through, and that's pretty much all it introduced us to. We saw a little bit more detail into the antagonists of the story, but most of it was around the rise of King Arthur and how he is going to progress in this story along with the antagonists, and of course Bridget and Duncan, our grandmother-grandson duo. I haven't looked at issue 3 yet, because that's what we'll be doing in a moment, but I'm going to talk about what I'm hoping for. So the last issue ended with the newly acquired Knights of the Round Table about to enter a bit of a fight with Duncan and Bridget. Now, at the end, Bridget is holding a pistol, and Duncan is holding more of a automatic rifle, maybe a shotgun, can't quite tell. So I'm hoping for this issue that it starts quite fast-paced, that there's going to be a lot of action, and I'm hoping for a bit of a longer time span for this issue, to last, because the last issue, in real time felt like it lasted about 40 to 60 minutes. So I'm hoping we get a lot of action, but also a lot of story development, and I'm pretty confident the art is going to be just as fantastic as the last 2 issues, just as dark but colourful at the same time, if you know what I mean. If you've read it, you'll know what I mean. But if you haven't read this and you want to read along with me, then go ahead, pause the video now, read along with me, and see if you agree with me after I've read it. So here we go. I'm going to read issue 3 of chapter 3 right there, of Once and Future, volume 1, The King is Undead. The end of that issue ends just like the other one ended, just on the cusp of something cool about to happen, and definitely leaves you reading more. But let's go to the start. Like I said last week, let's start at the start. Okay, where are we? So, what happens? So straight away, like I was hoping, the fight that looked like was going to happen at the end of issue 2 started right away at the start of issue 3, and it's as clumsy as you'd thought it would be from Duncan. It's where he's kind of shutting his eyes, screaming, flailing everywhere, bullets not staying true to one target, just bullets going all over the room, and just all out chaos in general. Bridget gets a lot more, gets a bit more control of the situation, grabs a bit of C4, and kind of just describes that they should run. But because it's been so long since she's done this kind of thing, she forgot that because she's now an old woman that she can't run anymore. So you see that kind of relationship between them, where Duncan is so far ahead, realizes that Bridget is way behind. He turns around, grabs her, flings her over her shoulder, and she's like, "Oh, you sweet thing." And then and then they're running away. She clicks a C4, huge explosion made up of a cacophony of things such as garlic, wolfbane, silver fangs, and lots of high explosive. So it's this kind of thing that she's... you're really starting to see who she was and how experienced she is to be able to prepare for this kind of thing. Like she said, she's built this explosive to kind of counter a lot of things instead of just one thing. So she's put a bit of everything into this explosive just in case, to use against whatever she comes up against. And I think that's really cool. You discover that the place where King Arthur was revived is called the Otherworld. And I think that's pretty cool. So Bridget and Duncan escape the Otherworld, leaving King Arthur and his new knights behind, kind of stuck in the Otherworld. But who'd have thought King Arthur can make portals to go anywhere he wants? So that's really clever and that's really good. And then, do you remember when I said in issue 1 that I hope characters from that issue appear in later issues? Well, that's happened. The woman that Duncan was on a date with, Rose, she's in now, and it feels like that she's going to be in the story for a long time. She's going to be part of this team now, so it won't be just Duncan and Bridget. It looks like it's going to be Duncan, Bridget, and Rose. It turns out that Rose is a historian. She's got like a doctorate in it, maybe a master's, and she seems to know her stuff. So Bridget says that we have to go and get her. And Bridget kind of holds her at gunpoint. When they do that, when they get to her house, straight away Bridget's like, "You coming with us?" And I think that's really, really insightful into Bridget's past and mentality and just general character. And I think I'm really enjoying Bridget's character. I think she's a very well thought out, well-rounded, and just good to read, in all honesty. So what she does, she takes Rosie and Duncan to a secret place, like an archive, where she shows Rose an archive of that belonged to a historian that Bridget was friends with, called Chunky. They unlock a note, and the note pretty much says, "If you've opened this for a reason. Do everything you're told, and good luck." Pretty much, and it's all in a very dark area, dark and gloomy, but nothing scary happens. But it's a good start to the relationship that you see between Duncan and Rose. Yes, the first date failed, but I guess this is now a bit of a rekindling. I think that's really good. The art in this issue I was really a big fan of. There are panels in this issue that show that you're definitely in the UK, like just by little details, like a disability sign on the road. Like you won't see that this type of sign in any other country, and you see that, and as soon as you see that, you know you're in Britain. I'll ignore the fact that it says the word Bristol in the top corner, but the signs, if that wasn't there, I would have known that we were in the UK, but the wording definitely helps to let me know that we're in Bristol. And then later on in the book, it goes, we go to Bath, and I've been to Bath quite a few times, and I am so impressed with the detail of this, as in it is literally, the buildings are in the right place. It looks exactly as I know Bath, and I'm really impressed with that, and I really like that. So well done on that, for drawing that detail and being able to copy Bath building per building. The supernatural element of this comes later in the issue, and I think I loved it. It was more ghostly this time, instead of skeletons and monsters and things like that. It's more ghostly. So each issue we've seen a different type of supernatural monster. If you've read the first issue, I won't spoil it. It's still so far my favourite monster in the book so far is in the first issue. But it's still really cool seeing the diversity in supernatural beings, monsters, and things like that. And that it all kind of exists in this world that Bridget knows, and the world that she is introducing Duncan and Rose to. What else? I think you see more development with the antagonists. I realised that I don't actually know who the antagonists are with. I don't think it mentions at the start of issue 1 either. So I don't actually know who they're working for. They've got like a little symbol. It looks like a circle version of the English flag. But apart from that, I don't think there's actually been a name of who they're working with. But you learn more about the antagonists. So the whole group, apart from one, got turned into like zombie versions of the Knights of the Round Table, and then only one woman was left, and she's like pure blood in the eyes of Arthur, and she has she has a son, and she's called him Galahad, and he appears for the first time in this issue, and he's wearing knight armor, and he approaches Arthur, who says, I'm ready, I will find the Grail for you. I was born for this purpose, and things like that. And it's very dramatic. And prior to this, to Galahad showing up, you see King Arthur raise the sword out of the stone. It's not clear if it's Excalibur or if it's Clarent, or if it was anything else. There's another mention of Welsh in here, so there's a little hint, maybe a little thing just to say this is maybe a Welsh sword, which I'm very happy about, but probably isn't, but it's nice to dream. And so when Arthur picks up this sword, he goes under another little transformation, and it's more clothing. So he gets like new armor. It's all black, bits of green. He's got a lot of it looks like crows or ravens, and it's very good. I'll show that in the arty part. That's what I'll do. You can see that in the arty part, where King Arthur gets his armor when he picks up the sword in the stone. And then what happens after that is, so Duncan and Bridget are kind of sneaking around, so they're not, the antagonists don't know they're there. They're just hidden behind a door. You can just see a little gap. And Bridget just kind of instructs Duncan to let me get this thing out the bag. Kneel there, don't move. And he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, just be quiet. Don't ruin my shot. And you see that she's just leaning a sniper rifle on Duncan's shoulder. And the last panel in this issue is the reticle of the sniper being aimed directly at Galahad's head. So they're trying to stop Galahad from getting the Grail, to stop Arthur from taking over the country, basically, and letting a big plague run over the country. So that was a really cool issue. Now I'm going to go on to reviews. Story, you see that I've got pen and paper here now. Story, overall, it was really good. We had a lot of development. I'm going to stop using the word development. I'm just going to go for the story. Story, really enjoyed it. I'm going to stick with an 8 out of 10. Purely based on the progression of it. It's the story of this issue was good, in particularly with growing relationships between Duncan, Bridget, and Rose, and you have the kind of acceptance of Rose from Bridget, and you get to see a lot more of Bridget's. What did I write down? You see that she's more of her old self is coming out of this issue. So you see, how she used to act or how she would act, but now that she can't act this way, she has to take things in a different direction because of how old she is. Now she can't move that well. So yeah, story of this issue, 8 out of 10. Really enjoyed it. Art, brilliant. The art, no blank spaces this time in this issue, unlike issue 2 where there are the few blank spaces on some pages. I still don't know why that wasn't filled in properly. But the art on this, I'm particularly impressed with the detail of Bath City in England, and The detail on King Arthur's armour and the church they enter to see these kind of ghostly spirits as well. And I was also really impressed with one panel in particular where it shown darkness without the panel being totally black, and it looks like it's got a bit of a matte finish, and I really liked it. And I think I'll show this in the arty part as well. I think it's very clever at conveying the darkness without it all being black. You'll see what I mean when I show it to you. So art, loved it. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Really like that. And development of the story from the last issue to what I'm hoping to go into the next issue is also really good. So it opens up right at the beginning of the end of chapter 2, issue 2, and has a really good pace to it. It's fast paced when it needs to be, slow paced when it needs to be, in terms of building those relationships between the characters, and then fast again when it needs to be towards the end, where that little bit of action was about to take place. So there's development with the relationships, there's development with King Arthur and the knights and Galahad and the woman, who I still don't know what her name is. And I think, again, that's just spot on. I really enjoyed it. The story seemed a lot longer than issue 2, as in the time span it took, because of a lot of travelling between Bristol and Bath. And from the other, so it went from the other world, which I think was in near Gloucestershire, and then from there to Bristol to Bath, and then into this cathedral that we're in Bath at the end of the issue. So I think that's development-wise, you've got a bit of everything. 9.5. Loved it. Okay, so that's it. So we got story, 8 out of 10, art, 9 out of 10, development, 9.5 out of 10. Really enjoyed that. Really looking forward to going on to the next issue. Again, I've done that again. Flip the next page. That's how eager I am to get into it. But if you have read this issue and you enjoyed it just like I did, and you've got similar thoughts, let me know. If you don't have similar thoughts, let me know and why. Just write down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like the channel. And now we're going to move on to the arty part, and I'll show you some of those bits of art that I really liked in this issue. Well, that's it from me for another week, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Like I said earlier, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it with your friends if you think they'll like this kind of stuff, and follow my Instagram page. It's at Scott's Shelf, and that will let you know when new stuff is out, as well as YouTube when you subscribe, hopefully. But that's been me for this week. Next week, we'll be looking at issue 4. We're more than halfway now, so hopefully things are going to start to get a bit more gripping, and we'll have some more action and more story. So thanks again. See you guys. Have a good week.